Hello, my soul-led speakers. I'm just going to take a breath. I've been mum to a sick boy, and you know when your little one is starting to feel better, when he can start to eat. So as you are hopping on for this week's training, hashtag live in the comments, or if you're catching me on the replay, hashtag replay. Oh, I'm excited to really share with you 3 really hot body language tips. Ooh, hear the music to really help you amplify your speaking. Body language. No, you don't want to do jazz hands, but it's like the music just makes me want to play with my hands a little bit. So, okay. I'm just going to check that this is coming through. Because I know the last time I couldn't see any of the comments. So, okay, make sure you say hello as you're hopping on. All right, we might just turn the music off. Oh my goodness, that was like a real start off, wasn't it? Oh, welcome to this week's training. And this is all about 3 hot tips or hot body language tips on how to really amplify your speaking. So I'm just curious, as you're hopping on, how many of you are actively speaking about your business? Like, I want to invite you, just put a yes in the comments, or if you're not, maybe you're thinking about, are you thinking about speaking and starting speaking more and more about your business? Like, put a yes in the comments. All right. Okay, I feel like this is coming through. Okay, and I'm going to keep an eye on the comments as much as possible. All right, I absolutely love this topic, and it's a topic that does not get spoken about nearly enough, particularly when it comes to speaking. See, it's not just the words that we say that you speak, but it's also the body language that you speak with. So I want you to think about that, because this is quite often underestimated, how much our body language is speaking for us. And there is some statistics that are out there, and there's debate on how real this statistic is, that there's this rule, they call it the 7-38-55 rule, that all communication, only 7% of it is done verbally through your spoken word. And 38% and 55% is done non-verbally, with 55% being your body language and 38% being your tone of your voice. Right, that's quite alarming statistic, right, to know that such a small portion is from the spoken word. Now, the statistics are debatable, but I wanted to share that with you just so that you are aware that your body and your tone, your body language, I should say, and your tone is speaking a lot for you. So wouldn't it be great to just understand what are 3 hot tips on how you can really amplify your speaking with the power of body language? And what I'm going to share with you is probably something you've heard before, but it is a practice. It is truly a practice. And I, as a speaker myself, it's something that I need to be more and more conscious of and aware of as well. So the first tip, well, actually, before I share the first tip, I want to share a quick story. I remember when I was working in my corporate job, that I was always quite fascinated about what makes someone really influential, inspiring, and impactful. And yes, it's through them being leaders and speakers. And I remember one of my senior managers, every time she would walk in the room, she had this presence about her. And every time she would speak, she would have people leaning in and wanting to hear everything she had to say. And I really admired that from her. And so I started to study her. I started to want to understand, how does she do that? How does she have this way to communicate with people and really draw people in? And what I noticed is it was a lot to do with her body language. It was a lot to do how she would position herself, how she would present herself, how she would portray herself. And I once was listening just to her words, and I'm like, oh my God, her words would put me to sleep. Like if you took away all the body language, all her tones, her actual content would put me to bed, because it was all about financial stuff. But I'm just curious, have you ever had that with someone where you experienced this, you couldn't put your finger on it, this magnetism, this way that they could just draw you in? Like, I'd love for you if you could share in the comments, maybe a speaker or someone you know that does that for you. Okay, so let's get down to the 3 tips. All right. Hello, Dr. Sawat Rizvi. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Nice to have you here joining me and joining any other ladies as well. All right. So the first body language tip, and can be one that can really be undervalued, but it's such an important one. And you may have heard it many a times, and particularly on the virtual space, it's your posture. Yes, your posture, whether you're standing or sitting down, how your posture can have an impact on how you feel as a speaker, and also how you are perceived, right? Because perception is reality, right? Like, no matter what, how you are presenting your posture is how your message will also be received. So let me give you a couple of examples. So you're on an online space like this, and you can observe through different meetings, through different people's videos. You know, when you have someone kind of leaning in, and you're like, they're interested, right? And so they're leaning in, or they kind of got this awkwardness about them, or your posture is like, oh goodness, I could just feel that cracking. Like, it's like inwards, right? Inwards. So you're slouching, right? People that are slouching. And what ends up happening when you're slouching is your message is not really coming through. So when you are actually rolling your shoulders back and upward, then you can receive a message a lot clearer, you can communicate a lot clearer, and you are perceived like a person who is confident, who knows what they're talking about, right? And so your posture has such a big impact. So just think about it. And the thing is, like, even you might have your posture like this, but you might cross your hands. Like, even if you're crossing your hands, I don't know if you can see that. If I was crossing my hands like that and my posture is like this, I'm actually closing off. Like, I'm not interested, right? Or you're sitting down and it's like, yeah, like you're closed off. It just perceives, there's a perception that you're not really open and you're not really giving, right? So if I was standing like this, just like think about, how are you feeling right now by me standing like this? I'm just curious, like pop it in the comments. How do you feel, me as a speaker speaking to you with my arms crossed like this? How does that make you feel? Right? So I want you to be aware of that, and aware of your own body language and how that's impacting. So when we have our posture and we roll our shoulders back, right? And what I do is, even when I'm standing, like, I'm standing very grounded, shoulder width apart. My legs are short because I'm grounding myself, and I am here, I am present, and my hands are open. My hands are open right down here, and you can't see that, but that in itself is saying I'm open to hearing, I'm open to receiving, and I'm open to giving as a speaker, right? And of course in a in person you can see the hands open, right? But when you are virtually, your hand gesture, now I'm already going to tip number 2, your hand gestures are so important, right? Okay. You look insecure. Thank you, Doctor. Right. So doing this, you look insecure, right? If I'm slouching, it's like, oh, I'm not really interested. Okay. You can still have your posture that way, and your hands might be in your pocket, right? So I want you to be aware that these are kind of silent ways that you are communicating to your listeners, right? So that kind of brings me to tip number 2, because I already jumped on the queue with that one, is your hand gestures, okay? Hand gestures are a great way to convey your energy, a really great way to tell a story, a great way to emphasize a message and really bring life to your talk, right? Now, just so that you understand how much hand gestures can impact your communication, it's probably around 60%, right? If you have a look at like a lot of the TED talkers that are out there, TED talkers use twice as many hand gestures than those who are not at that TED talk stage, right? And when you are speaking and your hand gestures match with what you're speaking about, that's when it really gets amplified, that next level, right? So when you are virtually here, even just how I am positioned on the screen, you can see my hands, right? You can see my hands. You can see that I'm speaking to you. And I'm bringing color into while I'm talking. But I want to show you something. If I was to step back, right? If I was to step back and I'm talking to you with my hands like this, right? I don't know about you, but it might just feel a little bit not right, right? Does it feel a little bit, I don't know, awkward, too big? Because look at the frame that I'm in, right? It just, I'm curious to hear from you just in the comments. How does it feel when I'm here speaking to you with my hand gestures versus when I'm back here and I'm doing the hand gestures? Just think about the energy and how that makes you feel as well. Okay. And the other thing is, you don't want to do jazz hands unless, of course, it's part of your talk, right? Whatever your hands need to match what you're talking about, right? They need to align, because if you're using your hands way too much while you're speaking, it looks contrived, it looks overdone, right? There is a fine balance between the two of them. I want to invite you to comment below. How many of you are conscious about your hand gestures, right? First position was good, right? So I want you to be aware of that. See where I was in the frame of the video, it's good. Whilst here, it just looks a bit not really, it looks disjointed, like it's not here, right? Okay. So before I share tip number 3, any questions so far? So the first one was all about your posture, right? Making sure that you are standing upright, straight, okay? You're not slouching, you're not looming, not hands crossed, right? And then the other one is your hand gestures, okay? Now, what I will say to the hand gestures, there are many different types of hand gestures, right? And different types of hand gestures give off different signals. And that's something that we learn and practice in my speaker boot camp. But there's just so many. I can't do that in this short period of time. But the one that you can use now or be more aware of is the open hands, right? The open hands of I'm here to give and serve, and I'm here to receive. Okay. All right, let's go on to tip 3. I don't know, there's now my messages are not coming through. All right, now tip 3 is one we can often forget, particularly when we're in a training space. Now, I know that I can be guilty of this because I'm training, I'm teaching, right? But is the don't forget to smile, right? This is one of the absolute musts, right? Because when you smile, it becomes contagious, right? It becomes contagious, particularly when we're opening up a talk, right? And even if we are talking about a serious topic or one that might be a little bit more of a tougher topic, still opening up with a smile, right? It just shows, I really feel like a smile opens up to your soul, to who you are as a person, as a speaker. And smiling relieves a lot of stress. It can relieve a lot of tension, even for you as a speaker, right? And I get it. You're like, sometimes, Michelle, like you're looking down the barrel of the camera, there's no one responding. How can you smile? Like it feels so much more natural when you're an in-person event versus when you're across the camera here, right? And you're not getting that response. But here's the thing, right? It's knowing that even beyond that lens in the camera, there are people behind that. And they might not be there live with you. They might be there on the replay, but you want to be able to connect with them, right? And your smile, they can see, they're like the window to your eyes, your facial expressions. They can feel who you are through your smile. And so here's a little tip, not to forget to smile, is like have a little Post-it note. A little Post-it note to remind you to smile, even when you might have a really important topic that you're talking about, right? Smiling. Super, super important. I mean, there's whole scientific evidence of smiling as well, right? So I'm just curious, out of those 3 tips, posture, hand gestures, smiling, which one is your favorite and which one will you commit to? Because here's the thing, you can do this training and it can all sit here, right? But if you really want to amplify your speaking and your impact and influence, it's then putting it into action, right? It's putting it into action. So I'm curious, which one of those, whether it's your posture, whether it's your hand gestures, or whether it's smiling, will you start to be more conscious of and aware of, and how you can bring more of that into your speaking? All right, just drop a 1 if it's going to be the posture that you're going to start practicing and working on, 2, your hand gestures, or 3, your smile. Always good to see where people are wanting to practice, because here's the thing, any form of speaking, whether you are getting started or whether you speak and it comes easily for you, these little tweaks and refinements and techniques just amplifies and enhances you and your presence and you as a speaker, right? I'm not here about changing you. I'm here about enhancing you and amplifying you, your message, and your impact. So talking about amplify, it reminds me that here's a bonus tip, right? Because when we're presenting to a camera, our body language when we're presenting online is not always clear to our audience, right? As it would be if we were meeting face to face. So that means facial expressions such as the smile are normally less obvious, right? So we want to amplify it even more, right? And I'm not talking, hey, no, I'm not talking like that, because like you still want to be real and really you, right? And so you want to be able to amplify your smile so that it's really, really clear to your audience, right? So it's not only your smile, but more in tune with your facial expressions. One of the things that I've been guilty of and been told so many times is my face says everything. Everything. When I'm upset, when I'm bored, when I roll my eyes, right? Our facial expressions says a world of things about who we are, what our message is, what we're about, our emotions, everything, right? And I remember one of my leaders used to say to me, Michelle, you know, as you step into a more of a leadership role, in which I know all of you are leaders of your life, leaders of your business, your facial expressions can give away quite a lot. And so she would say to me, look, just be more conscious, be more aware of your facial expressions. And I think that goes to say even in your speaking as well, right? So think about not so much maybe from a camera point of view. Oh, actually, no, it can be from a camera point of view. Because I was just thinking, no, actually it can be, because even with comments that might come through, even though I might not be able to physically see you, I can still see comments coming through, right? And if someone was to make a comment that impacts you emotionally, or that makes you want to roll your eyes, that makes you want to go, right? Like being aware how your facial expressions are responding, right? So I think that's a bonus tip. Like I just can't stop at 3. I'm going to give you that bonus tip of how your facial expressions can really amplify your message positively and negatively as well. So just be conscious of that. So, all right. There are so many different strategies and techniques when it comes to body language, and to really help amplify your audience, your impact, and move people closer to you. Because at the end of the day, when we are building our businesses with the power of speaking, right, this is about not only what we're teaching, what our vision is, but it's also about helping people move closer to us in that know, like, and trust that, oh, I like her. She knows, like, I'm leaning in. So when you align the words that you're saying with body language and tones and stories, like it all marries up together and has and influences and impacts and inspires people to make that next step with you, right? So now what? I've downloaded all this information for you, right? And one thing I want to invite you to do is to practice. Just practice one of these tips, right? And start to implement it. Try it on. See how your own energy starts to shift, how you're impacted as a speaker, and see how it's impacting your audience as well. Are your audience leaning in more? I mean, you may not be able to physically see that, but you will know that by how many start to reach out to you, how many want to learn more about you, how many are showing up, right? All of that are key points to see how when you start to tweak these things and enhance your authenticity and amplify your messaging, your speaking, it can really make a difference. Okay, so this is wrapping up today's training, but here's what I want to, before we wrap up, I want to say that if you know you want to have a greater sense of confidence, clarity and impact in your speaking and have a regular speaking practice to grow your audience and really impact them to making that step and making that move to you and, raising their hands, wanting to work with you, then my upcoming speaker boot camp may be just what you're looking for, right? So if you're desiring to have a deeper confidence as a speaker, greater impact, more clarity in your messaging so that you have people raising their hands, wanting to work with you every time you speak. Yes, every time you speak, guaranteed. I'm putting that as a guarantee. Then my boot camp, my speaker boot camp might be exactly what you're after. All you need to do if you are interested is send me a DM with the words boot camp, right? And I will share with you all the information. All right, my gorgeous soul-led speakers, I look forward to seeing you on my feed, speaking more, and start implementing some of these amazing body language tips. All right, I look forward to seeing you same time, same place, different topic here next week. Bye for now.